guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm sharing 4 different sheet pan dinner ideas. So these are going to be perfect if you have a super busy weeknight or if you want just really minimal cleanup. That is one of the reasons that I love these sheet pan dinners. It's very easy to clean up, hardly any dishes at all, and they also tend to be on the healthier side for a lot of dinners, so I love making all of these sheet pan dinners. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, I just want to say welcome. My name is Caitlin. I share a lot of really quick and easy dinner ideas on my channel. I do grocery hauls, meal prep, and other motherhood related content. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you're subscribed, and let's go ahead and get into all of these dinner ideas. For this first dinner, we are making some roasted sausage with peppers and potatoes. This was definitely one of my favorites. So I'm starting off with cutting up all of my veggies. So here I have 3 russet potatoes, and then I also have 1 sweet potato. I did leave the skins on all of these. If you want, you can go ahead and peel them, but I just chopped them all up. You want them to be about 1/2-inch cubes, and that will be about perfect for this recipe. But go ahead and just get all of these cut up. You can do a little bit more sweet potato if you want. My husband doesn't really like sweet potatoes, so I definitely did more potatoes this time. I don't peel my sweet potatoes, but I do like to take a little bit of the skin off just in the areas that look a little bit damaged. I always feel like sweet potatoes are so rough looking, so I just take a little bit of that skin off, and then I'm gonna chop these up just like I did all of the potatoes. Now, if you have never tried sweet potatoes in the oven like this, I highly recommend them. My kids absolutely love sweet potatoes, and they're really healthy for them, so this is such a great dinner option for kids. So I'm getting all of that cut up, and then I also have my sausage here. So this is probably about 1 pound of some Polish sausage, but you can definitely use whatever sausage you have on hand. Italian sausage would also be really good in this recipe. So I'm just slicing all of that up, and then I also have 1 small onion, and I'm just going to chop that up too. The most time-consuming part of making this dinner is just prepping all of the fresh produce. So I'm just getting all of my veggies cut up. This is the last thing I need to prep. It is just 1 yellow bell pepper, and I'm just going to chop this up. You can use a little bit more pepper or a little bit less, just depending on your preference. Now that I have all of this cut up in my bowl here, I'm just adding on a little bit of olive oil. I used a couple of tablespoons. You could also use avocado oil. And then I'm adding on about 1 teaspoon of some garlic powder, about 1 teaspoon of some salt, and then about 1/2 teaspoon of all of these other seasonings. So this is 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, as well as 1/2 teaspoon of some dried oregano. And then you're going to want about 1/2 teaspoon of some black pepper. I will have this full recipe linked down below. I did tweak the measurements of all of the seasonings just a little bit though, just tweaked it to my liking, so you can definitely do that as well. But then you're just going to get all of this mixed together. Now that the veggies and the sausage are coated in the oil and the seasoning, I'm just taking another quick little drizzle of olive oil onto my sheet pan to prevent anything from sticking, and then I'm dumping on all of the veggies and just spreading them out in one even layer. Now this is going to get baked in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes, and then you're going to toss all of the veggies and put it in for another 15 to 20 minutes. You may need to put it in a little bit longer just depending on the size of your potatoes, but this is what it should look like when it comes out of the oven. It is so good, it has so much flavor, and it's a really quick and easy dinner to put together. For this next dinner, I'm making an Italian chicken dinner. This is definitely a favorite in our house and really easy and minimal ingredients to put together. So I'm starting off with cutting up my potatoes into about 1/2-inch cubes. I am using some yellow golden potatoes. These are really good. I also really like using the baby red potatoes for this recipe and just cutting those up. But you're going to want your potatoes in about 1/2-inch cubes. You can peel them or you can leave the peels on like I do. So I added all of that into my casserole dish here. I added in 2 thin chicken breasts, and then I'm also adding in 1 can of green beans. You can also use frozen here if you want to. And then I'm just taking my Italian seasoning and opening that up. I do like to drizzle a little bit of olive oil onto my potatoes, and then I'm just taking all of that Italian seasoning and I'm just sprinkling this all over everything, all over the green beans, the chicken, as well as the potatoes. I do like to flip over the chicken to make sure both sides are coated, but that is it. That's all you're really gonna have to put on here for seasoning, and then we're just going to take a little bit of butter and add that on top as well. Now for the butter, you're going to want about 3 tablespoons to 4 tablespoons of butter. I like to cut mine up into some smaller pieces, and then I'm just going to dot this right on top of the potatoes, the chicken, as well as the green beans. I am going to cover this up with some aluminum foil, and then it's going to get baked in a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour, just depending on your potatoes, how big they are. But you'll know that everything is done when your chicken is cooked through and your potatoes are fork tender. For this next dinner, I am making a shrimp scampi with some roasted broccoli. So I'm going to be starting off with getting my broccoli all prepped and ready to go. So here I have 2 crowns of broccoli, and I'm just cutting off all of the florets, and I'm going to throw them into my salad spinner. I like to soak my broccoli for a little bit, and then once it is soaked and nice and clean, I will spin it out and get it dried off. I have been using this salad spinner a ton lately. I got it probably about 3 or 4 months ago now, and it works so good for fresh produce of all kinds. If you do not have this salad spinner yet, it's a really, really good one. I just ordered mine off of Amazon. Highly recommend it for prepping any sort of fresh produce. If you don't have a salad spinner, I would just make sure to get your broccoli really nice and dry. You can pat it dry with some towels if you want, but this is just the easier way to do it, so I will always use my salad spinner for this. Now heading over to my sheet pan, I'm just spraying that with a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm adding my broccoli right onto there, and I'm going to be drizzling on a little bit of olive oil. Again, you could use avocado oil here if you want to, and then I'm just tossing that to get the oil distributed all over the broccoli, and then I'm going to be adding the seasonings on here. So I will have the original recipe that I followed linked down below, and it has the measurements on there for seasonings, but I totally just eyeballed this. But here I'm just adding on some Parmesan cheese. I probably added on about a 1/3 cup of some grated Parmesan. I'm also adding on some salt, some pepper, garlic powder, and paprika. Just do all of this to taste, or you can follow the measurements in the recipe linked down below. I'm just giving the broccoli a quick toss together, and then I'm going to bake this in a 425-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes until that broccoli is starting to cook through, and then I'm going to be adding on my shrimp. Now heading over to my bowl here, I'm going to get my shrimp ready to go while the broccoli is in the oven. So this is about 12 ounces of shrimp. You're going to want anywhere from like 12 ounces to a pound of some shrimp. And I am using the pre-cooked shrimp this time. And then I'm adding on a little bit of garlic powder as well as some salt and pepper. And then here's about half a stick of some melted butter that I'm dumping right on top. And I'm just giving this a quick toss together. And this is all going to get added right onto our sheet pan. So once that broccoli has been in the oven for about 15 minutes, I'm just scraping that to make sure none of it is stuck onto the bottom, and then I'm going to be adding on the shrimp on the other side of the pan. So the recipe said to put it in the oven for about 6 minutes. Now I ended up putting mine in for a little bit longer, and since I was using the pre-cooked shrimp, I didn't really have to make sure that they were fully cooked through since they were already cooked, but we just like to have our shrimp on the more done side. That's how both my husband and I prefer them. So I just put them in for another like 10 minutes at 425 degrees. This is what it looks like when it came out of the oven. It was super good, very easy to put together. I just paired this with some pasta on the side, and this was such an easy and delicious dinner. Now for this next dinner, I'm just making some chicken and roasted veggies in the oven. Now I have to say this chicken turned out absolutely amazing. You're gonna love this recipe. So I'm starting off by prepping all of my veggies here. Here I am working with some Brussels sprouts as well as some yellow potatoes and some carrots. So here are my Brussels sprouts. I am just cutting them in half. I'm gonna make sure that they get all washed off and ready to go. And then I also have about 4 potatoes here, and I'm just gonna cut those up into some nice small pieces. You definitely don't want the potatoes to be too big or they're not going to cook through in the oven. And for my carrots, I'm just cutting these up into some nice thin pieces. You definitely don't want them to be too big. You could also use baby carrots here if you want to, but then you're going to want to make sure to cut those in half. But just get all of your veggies cut up and ready to go. Toss them into a bowl, and then we're going to drizzle on the oil as well as the seasoning. I did also add one small onion that was just sliced up. This added a ton of flavor while it was roasting in the oven. And then I'm adding in about 1 tablespoon of some olive oil. I did decide to add a little bit more in there. I have a ton of garlic here. You're going to want about 6 cloves of minced garlic. I probably added a little bit more than that. And then I added in about 3/4 teaspoon of some dried rosemary, and then 3/4 teaspoon of some dried thyme, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. You can just do that to taste, but I added in about 1/2 teaspoon of each and just started off with that. I think next time I might add a little bit more salt in there, but then I'm just getting all of this tossed together. Now into this separate bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm adding in about 3/4 teaspoon of rosemary as well as about 1/2 teaspoon of some thyme. And then I'm also adding in just a little bit of salt and pepper as well as some garlic powder. And I'm just getting all of this mixed together. This is going to be the butter that goes on top of the chicken. And you guys, that chicken turns out so good. So here I have my sheet pan. I'm just spraying that with a little bit of olive oil. And then I'm adding on all of my veggies right on there. And I am also going to be adding on my chicken. The chicken is going to go right in between all of the veggies. It just ends up so juicy and delicious. I can't get over how good this chicken was. Now here is the chicken. I am using some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You could also add the ones that have the bone in if you want, but I chose to go with the boneless ones and they turned out so good. But then you're going to add all of that butter right on top with all the butter and the seasonings. You're just going to use a brush and put that right on top of all of your chicken thighs. You're gonna bake this chicken at 475 degrees for about 40 minutes or until your chicken and your potatoes are completely cooked through. This chicken was so juicy and delicious. If you don't think you like chicken thighs, you definitely wanna give this recipe a shot. It was just delicious and my kids loved this chicken as well, so I think you guys would really enjoy this one. Well, that is going to wrap up this sheet pan dinner ideas video. I really hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I would love to have you over on my channel for more cooking content, really quick and easy recipes, and other motherhood related content. But I will catch you all in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
As a young girl, the fields were mine. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines. So offshore, playful and free, without a care.